I very rarely actually listen to metal.
I feel like every metal musician says that.
Yeah.
I barely listen to metal, you know.
Maybe it's because I get so sick of playing it.
Yeah, and I mean, you're spending all day trying to make metal. It's the last thing you want to listen to.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Spencer Whiteout podcast. Rated R.
You have some criminal charges, bro. Guess like we're avoiding the shark.
No, today, Turbo Neck guy.
I'll give you a kiss. You give me your number.
That checked out a ton, dude. Tell me you felt.
We're Americans. We're the ones that are descendants from the 1776 musket-bearing motherfuckers.
Welcome back to the Spencer Whiteout podcast. In this episode, I have Josh from the Australian metalcore band Darkmatter. We dive into the history of the band, their musical influences, their songwriting process, all the new music that they have coming out, and the exciting plans for 2023. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Let's dive in. So I just want to start off with my experience finding you guys. I was on Core Radio, which is a site which may or may not have metalcore leaks. And I was just scrolling through. I saw the artwork for Parasite Culture. I thought it looked sick. It said that this band was from Australia and they worked with Lance Prenc. And so, you know, whenever those two things combine, it's going to be something amazing, right? And so the ending breakdown of Parasite Culture, the electronics and soul sick, all that stuff, it's so genre pushing. I love the way you just blend all these different genres and stuff. That's something I've always been fond of when it comes to bands like Linkin Park, North Lane, Loathe, Icy Stars. I just love it when bands can take a bunch of different styles, mash it up in a blender, and it still sound good and natural. So I love that about your guys' band. But let's start at the beginning. How about you tell me who's in the band, how old you guys are, how you came together?
So we're a four-piece. So myself, Josh, I play guitar and I do the clean vocals. We've got Jack Bell, who is our vocalist, our bassist Jordan Kestel, and drummer James Glover. Now, we're all sort of in a similar age bracket kind of thing. Like, we're all in our late 20s. How we actually came together, it was essentially all of us being in different bands throughout the scene over a number of years. We all kind of got to know each other. All of those bands basically kind of fizzled out.
Any that we would have heard of?
Doubtful. No, preferably
well,
not.
no, the reason I ask though is because you guys have such a polished sound, and it sounds like, you know, I wanted to see how old you guys were because it really sounds like such mature music for a band that's only been around, you know, for a year or so. So it sounds like you guys were in other bands and learning and growing a lot as musicians. And then when it came time to make Darkmatter, it got a lot more serious.
Yeah, definitely. It's a funny story, actually. I began kind of writing some bits and pieces by myself. Jack, our vocalist, I'd had my eye on him for 3 years and I would ask him to make something with me pretty much like once a year. It was just like, nah, I've got this going on, I've got that going on. And it was like, no. And then I think the third year in, he actually hit me up and he was like, hey, you still writing music? And I was like, yes, here we go. Finally.
Yes.
So after chasing him for a while, finally got him. And having James, our drummer, he's like a super close friend of mine. And he always said, whenever you're ready to go with this stuff, whenever you're ready to launch this project, I'm here. Just give me a shout and we'll do it, kind of thing. And that's pretty much exactly how it worked. And then before, when you were talking about it sounding polished and stuff like that, I don't think people realize how long it kind of took us to produce the product that we were able to put out. It was a lot of back and forth, a lot of fine tuning, a lot of disagreements.
Yeah. What kind of disagreements? Just like the stylistic direction of the band?
Definitely. It took us a while to figure out how to work with each other. Because we're all friends and, like, as I said, like, we've known each other for a while kind of thing, but haven't actually worked together in like a band kind of capacity. So it took us a while to kind of figure that out and figure out what everyone wanted out of it in terms of like direction. And I think that's basically where you get the genre blending kind of thing come from. Everyone's got kind of different ideas and different influence and stuff like that. And my job was to try and put that all together in a sort of seamless kind of way.
So what are the musical influences?
It's kind of hard to nail down, like, in terms of influence, what exactly is in there. I'm pretty broad with what I listen to. Like, I grew up on hip hop and rap. I'll say number one influence for me is Rage Against the Machine.
Nice. Favorite song by them?
Oof. I'm going to say Calm Like a Bomb.
Yes,
or
dude. Guerrilla Radio?
Possibly Guerrilla Radio. I've actually got the, like, Battle of Los Angeles spray paint figure tattooed on me.
Oh, nice.
It's
yeah, that's awesome, man.
It's been a whole thing.
Any other musical influences?
I listen to a lot of A$AP Rocky, Tyler, the Creator. I very rarely actually listen to metal.
I feel like every metal musician says that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because
I barely listen to metal.
Yeah. Maybe it's because I get so sick of playing it.
Yeah. And I mean, you're spending all day trying to make metal. It's the last thing you want to listen to, I guess. No, but do you like other metal bands? Like, what would your other favorite metal bands be that influenced you? How about that?
Oh, metal bands. I'd probably lean towards the direction of Deftones a little bit, Korn.
And how about Linkin Park? Because Linkin Park, I feel like, has to be an influence.
Oh, yeah. That was one of the things that actually pushed me more towards doing music. I actually, when I was young, I saw the Linkin Park Live in Texas DVD.
Yeah.
And I was just like mind blown. Absolutely mind blown. I feel like that's a staple for...
It's a staple. It's a staple. Hybrid Theory. You know, I love about that album is just all the variety. They got the rapping, screaming, singing.
Definitely.
You know, kind of breakdowns, weird electronic parts. And that's what I love about Darkmatter too, is you guys take all that stuff and put it together in a very modern way for metalcore. So I love that. How do you go about starting to even create music like yours? Because it is so complex and there's a lot of layers. And do you start with a melody or lyrics, or how does that process go?
I can start with the smallest thing sometimes. Sometimes it'll be half of a riff that pops into my head. There's been times where there's been random sounds. Like, I'm a mechanic for a living and I work in a very loud workshop, and sometimes there's just random sounds that pop up, like using like a rattle gun kind of thing to undo wheels. There's been times where I've kind of like heard patterns and stuff from that, and that will kind of trigger something, and then I'll end up recording it into my iPhone, just kind of like mouthing it into my iPhone, and then getting home and then bringing that to life.
That's amazing. You know what you should do is you should get some samples, you know, just like audio recording, like weird sounds in the mechanic shop, and then throw those into the breakdown.
Trust me, I already have.
Okay, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah, literally.
What's the weirdest sound that you've recorded, or a favorite, like a standout?
Really random. So in the bathroom at my workplace, it has a ceiling fan, and the ceiling fan is really old and it clicks and it just doesn't really work properly, but it makes a really, really cool kind of... I really don't know how to explain it. I'd have to... You know, I'm probably going to put it in a Darkmatter song in future, so... When I do it,
please do.
I'll let you know where it is.
Yes, I love the Easter eggs. That's so cool. So let's talk about working with Lance Prenc. I actually got to meet him, which was really cool. I met him because he toured with Invent Animate and Alpha Wolf when they came through Chain Reaction.
Oh, wow.
And I knew what he looked like. And I was like, I appreciate your work. He makes the best mixes. For those who don't know, he mixes bands like Alpha Wolf, Void Division, Darkmatter, Dissect. The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah,
but he's incredible. So what was the choice to work with him, and how did that collaboration come about?
We wrote these tracks. We took our time. We were like, from the get-go, we were like, we're going to do this properly. We're not going to waste any time. We're not going to throw anything half-assed out there kind of thing. So once we had all the tracks together, once we had everything recorded, it was time to kind of figure out who was going to mix it. And Lance at the time was just popping off. Like, every mix we heard from him, we were just in love with. I mean, it's loud. It's always in your face and just so thick and full. I mean, at the time, there was no other option for us. We just wanted Lance. And then thankfully, the producer that we usually kind of work with, his name's Cody Brooks. He actually had some kind of relationship with Lance kind of thing, and started chatting with him and kind of set that whole thing up for us. Just from that point onward, as soon as we got our first mix back from him, we were just like blown away. If we ever have to go to anybody else, it's going to be very difficult. I think they've got big shoes to fill for sure.
Yes. Now, he's a really busy guy, though, I'm sure. Like you said, he's popping off and everyone wants to work with him, but you guys were able to get it scheduled in?
Yeah, it wasn't too hard at the time. I think part of it may have been he kind of heard some of the stuff and was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. I mean, after we did the EP with him, you know, we wrote and recorded more tracks and obviously wanted him to do more. And he came over with Alpha Wolf because we played one of the shows on Alpha Wolf's Metalcore Snitches tour. So I got to kind of like chat to him like while he was here. And I was basically like, hey, we've got some tracks, blah, blah, blah. How are you looking for the year? Are you like pretty booked? And he's like, always. Like, I'm always flat out kind of thing. But he was like, but I'll squeeze you in. Like, don't even mention it. Don't worry about it. And he did, which is like amazing.
Amazing.
Honestly,
So what did
guy.
you guys' demos sound like?
Similar, I guess. I'd say in terms of production quality, you're looking pretty low level there.
But he saw the potential, right? And did you already create a lot of the electronics and other things? Or how much did the tracks evolve, I guess?
So everything that you hear that's in there currently was there pre-mix.
Nice.
A lot of the beats and stuff like that, I kind of produced demo versions at home. Once we actually got into the studio with Cody, we kind of remade those and made them sound a little bigger. And all of that stuff is, I'd say 99% of the time is me kind of just like fiddling around at home and making all these kind of weird, trappy type things.
And do you have like multiple versions of songs? Because I know for myself as a filmmaker, you know, you'll edit a scene a certain way and then you edit it a different way and then you're watching both of them and you're like, I don't know which one I like more.
So many different versions. My computer's just constantly clogged with
final done,
so
V4,
much. Exactly.
V5. Yeah, just over and over again. Yeah,
even
it's never done, right?
Yeah. Like in our Dropbox at the moment, there's currently, I think, 5 different versions of one song at different tempos with different sections switched around and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of that.
Does that contribute to the band tension? You're like, no, I want version 1. I want version 3.
Yeah, it's all about coming to a good compromise.
Yeah,
because there is a lot of that. Like, I mean, some members of the band will like stuff sort of over the top, real fast, real quick, real punchy, and then others will be like, I kind of want to slow it down a little bit. I kind of want some groove, and it's finding a happy medium kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. Well, you guys have definitely found that happy medium, and I will say I'm super glad you guys went with putting bass drops in the songs because I've got 2 12-inch subs in my car and like I did not know that the second EP, the new EP, could sound better than the first one, man. But somehow it does, and it's amazing. The ending of Blade Runner, dude, like, man, I love how long that breakdown goes on. And yeah, something about that track really, really special and sick how it's like super heavy and you got the screams in there. And then the second half of it, kind of the outro, it's still this super heavy breakdown. Then it's like this ethereal, clean singing over the top of it, which was really unique and really cool. So I loved that. Hats off to you for that.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
So we're going to talk about the new music in a little bit, but let's talk about how you guys got booked on shows and how have those shows been so far.
So in terms of shows, everyone in our local scene was super supportive when we first kind of came out. There was a lot of like, hey, do you want to jump on this show? Do you want to jump on that show? And then in terms of the slightly bigger shows with international kind of acts, while Lance was mixing our EP, he actually hit me up at like, I think it was 12:30 or 1 a.m. kind of thing, and was like, hey, are you guys ready to play shows yet? And I was just like, yeah, sure. Absolutely. What do you got? And he was like, I'm going to see if Alpha Wolf wants to chuck you on their Perth show. And I messaged our group chat and I was like, hey, Lance just sent me this. And everyone's just like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's huge, man.
That's like an instant big step in the right direction kind of thing. So we were all like super pumped for that. So shout out to Lance for that. He's a great man. Appreciate
did you get to meet the guys in Alpha Wolf?
Yeah, that was real cool. And we had a quick chat after and stuff and a couple of compliments thrown either way kind of thing. So that's pretty cool. They're super cool guys.
Amazing.
Shout out to them.
And how did that first show go? Like performing and you guys as a 4-piece?
Our first actual show ended up being a local one, playing under 2 bands who are probably our biggest local bands. So you've got Vacant Home and Daybreak.
Daybreak's cool, but they need to put out more music more often.
They do.
I've been following them since 2017. They've only dropped a few songs and I'm like, man, come on, guys.
They're moving, man. They're definitely moving. I went to a show last night where they headlined. And
how was it?
Awesome. They're so good. Like their live show is top notch. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Same with Vacant Home. There's some really good bands in Perth, man. I don't think people fully realize there's some really, really cool bands here, considering how far away we are from everything. I guess that's why not many people realize, but...
Yeah. Hey, wasn't that band Surroundings from Perth?
I think so, yeah.
They're not really active anymore, but they were a really cool band.
I definitely remember them for sure, yeah.
Yeah, they were dope.
There's been some gems.
So you've been playing a lot more shows, though. How did the booking come about?
There's been times where things have just been offered to us and we're kind of just like, all right, that's awesome. We didn't have to sort of push to try and get anything. And then there's been other times where shows have popped up and we're like, we really want this show. So we'll hit up the event promoter kind of thing and be like, put us on this. Like, we need to be on this.
We demand it. Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, others are just through kind of like contacts and word of mouth kind of thing. We recently played with Gravemind and Make Them Suffer. And that was just through having chats with mutual friends and kind of stuff like that. And sometimes it just kind of works out that way.
Yeah. How does the music translate live? The music's very complex. And so how challenging is it to pull off certain songs or certain parts live?
At first, it was a bit of a headache to try and work out how everything was going to run. We definitely needed to use backing tracks. I know some people are kind of a little bit funny about bands using backing tracks, like you're getting rid of that band purity kind of thing. But the way I see it, it's all part of the entire experience. It's there to help the music. It's not there to replace it kind of thing.
Yes, to elevate it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Elevate the experience. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, there's that much stuff in some of our music. If we wanted to do it without backing tracks kind of thing, we'd need a fair few more members.
Yeah, and you need your mechanic buddies on stage with the drills and stuff into the mics, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we think it translates pretty well live. We've kind of put a lot of effort into making sure it does. Some of the beat stuff for now is kind of backing tracks. Moving forward, we're actually going to be making those on stage.
That's exciting, man.
Yeah, it's just another little cool twist, I guess. Like if you're having somebody on the stage with a beat pad kind of thing, making these things live, it's a different thing.
Yeah, like Northlane, they do that.
Yeah. And it's impressive to see.
Totally, yeah. So let's talk about being DIY. You said you've been DIY from the start. You haven't had a label attached or anything. I want to see if you guys have considered signing to a label and kind of what your reasoning is behind all of that.
In terms of labels so far, we've had some offers here and there, but nothing that's hugely stood out to us. I think the first thing we generally do is ask the question, like, what can you do for us that we aren't already doing for ourselves? Like, we're a very active band. We have done a lot of research into kind of like building our brand ourselves. I think being on a label isn't completely off the table, but I think it all depends like what they're able to do to kind of like help us elevate. Until that time comes, we're just going to keep doing our own thing because it's working.
Yeah, totally is working. Everything seems very professional, from the music, the social media, the music videos, everything you guys got going on definitely seems professional.
Yeah, thanks, man. We're trying not to outsource for a lot of things. Like doing the stuff DIY, it can get expensive. So we've kind of started taking on roles. I've taken on some graphic design stuff. So doing show posters and just little things that you would need to pay people for that I guess aren't super, super important, but still need to be done. I've kind of like dipped into figuring out how to use programs like Premiere Pro for some video editing and things like that. A lot of the like kind of admin stuff and, email contact with people, Jordan handles that. Jordan handles financials. At the moment, everything just kind of works for us. We have our routine with everything, so... Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I was messaging with Jordan back and forth. I'm like, man, this Josh guy is like, must be a big deal. He's got like his agent talking to me, like this whole time.
Yeah, we kind of switched to doing that because it was getting a little confusing. We'd be sort of in the emails and talking back and forth with people and they'd think they'd be talking to me and then Jordan would reply and then we're kind of just like stumbling over each other. So we're like, okay, right, this is yours and I'll do something else kind of thing. So...
It's good to see how on top of things you guys are with delegating responsibilities just on all fronts. And that's how you guys are going to be successful doing this DIY.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the new music. I heard the new EP. It's incredible. I love it. Thank you for sending it to me early. So good. Why don't you give us some background on how this new EP came about?
So the new stuff, we just wanted to level up, basically. We put Project Darkmatter out. It was received super well. After that, we were kind of like, okay, we've got to step this up, but also don't want to go too far in sort of a different direction. So I think anyone that ends up listening to this next release should be able to clearly see that it's kind of still us, it's still Darkmatter sound. It's just like a level up in terms of the songwriting, and I think in terms of the production as well. I think the production is a bit of a step up, even though, you know, they're both Lance, but it sounds pretty damn savage.
Can confirm, definitely.
Yeah. So that was the goal.
I mean, it's called The Anatomy of Violence, so what do you expect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what were the inspirations for each of the tracks? Let's just go through it track by track.
All of these tracks kind of revolve around toxic relationships. Some of them are more to do with friendships. Some of them are more to do with love interests. And they're presented in a couple of different ways. You've got Blade Runner that's, you know, a little longer, a little more in depth. You've got a lot of different kind of styles mixed into that track. And then you've got Claustrophobia, which is just a wrecking ball, basically. So I think we've all kind of been through some really not great experiences in terms of relationships. So putting that all together, building tracks that kind of match the vibe of those things was kind of the goal. And I think we kind of achieved that pretty well and did it in a fairly interesting way.
Totally. And then you have that song Overdose, which is more of a kind of a rap track interlude into a breakdown.
Yeah. So with that one, it was just wanting to do something a little different. Obviously, we'd shown bits and pieces of what we could do in the more like trap kind of vein. We all liked the idea of doing basically a dedicated track for that kind of thing. Obviously, you can hear it. There's still a lot of like actual kind of instruments mixed in. You've got like heavy guitars in there and stuff like that behind the beat stuff. And then while writing that, I kind of got to the end and I was like, this needs a full send at the end of it. It needs a full send. So it got a full send.
I was hoping for that, man. And if it would have just kind of ended, I would have been like, oh, I want like just a little bit more. And that last send off at the end is pretty rad.
Yeah.
But yeah, Blade Runner, that's my favorite track from you guys. I like how long that song is. I like how it's just so much of an experience. You know, you feel like you go on a whole ride during that song.
Definitely.
It kind of reminds me of one of my other favorite songs by Loathe, which is the title track, I Let It In, It Took Everything. That song has so many different parts to it, and it's like a 4 or 5 minute song or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it really feels like you go on this whole experience. And so I loved that about the Blade Runner song, and I feel like we're going to hear a lot more of that when you guys do put out your next music or an eventual debut album. What can you tell us about that and just kind of the future of where you guys want to go and with your music?
So basically, we're just going to keep creating, man. We love producing new stuff. We love experimenting with new stuff. I think over next year, you're definitely going to see probably a good amount of new music from us. We're also going to start getting out there and doing a little more traveling, playing some shows out of state kind of thing and moving around a lot more. And we're just going to keep building our brand. That's kind of the goal here. But yeah, definitely lots of new music on the way.
Now, do you think you'd want to do another EP or two next, or when is it time for a debut album? That's the question I want to know. Tell me off air.
Yeah.
Because I imagine there's strategy involved in that, being like a couple EPs and just kind of riding that hype. I feel like there has to be the right timing for like a debut album.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the good thing about EPs is you can get all of these ideas down quickly, put them out, and, you know, people love them. With an album, obviously you get a little more in depth. You get to kind of expand on things a little more. So we do kind of want to push that back a little bit, but there will be a Darkmatter album. But I think next, after this release, you may be looking more towards a slightly longer EP.
That'd be cool too.
Beforehand. That's all.
Well, it's exciting, man. I mean, you guys know what you're doing, so I'll let you steer the ship there. But I'm just so excited to get more music. I mean, you guys are incredible, and I can't wait for you to come over to the USA one day, hopefully sometime soon.
That's the goal, man. That's the goal.
Yeah, that'd be so sick. So wrapping this up, where can people follow you and follow the band and anything else you want to give a shout out to?
So if you need to find us on any socials, it's pretty much the same across the board. So you've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube's Darkmatter Static. all consistent across the board. So just type in Darkmatter Static, follow all of that, keep track of what we're doing. In terms of shout outs, I really want to give a shout out to Cody Brooks. Appreciate you, man. Ben Ferguson, awesome guy, also helped with the engineering side of things. And obviously shout out to the big man, Lance, for just being an animal with the mixes. So, and yeah, shout out to everyone who's listened to us and who continues to support us by buying merch, even sending us messages. We get a lot of messages on things like Instagram and stuff like that. And every time we appreciate it so much. So thank you to, everyone who supports us.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you, Josh, for coming on. I'll put links for your guys' band in the description and all that. But thanks so much for chatting with me. It was a blast.
Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've got a lot more metalcore bands that I plan on interviewing this year, so there's going to be a lot to look forward to. So stay tuned and stay hyped. That's a wrap.
And that's it.